Okay, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Anastasiya Podcast. This is going to be a solo episode. I actually was trying to record one with Matt yesterday, and then it ended up being one of those things where we had to hit pause, had a whole husband and wife talk, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm getting to this point where I need to fine work the details of like what I want my podcast to be, how I want to show up here, the like topics I want to cover, stories I want to highlight, etc. Because especially in this season of life when there's sleep deprivation and every day feels like Groundhog Day, I don't want this podcast to feel repetitive either. And a huge eye-opening thing for me yesterday was I think I've always felt that because I'm a person who can talk easily and I'm a long story long kind of girl, there was this underlying expectation I was holding for myself of making podcasts, that were at least an hour. And the podcast I released today, it it ended up being an hour and 10 minutes. It took so long to edit and actually everything went perfectly smoothly. And I'm like, okay, Anastasia, there is a way to still stay engaged with your audience, present topics that matter and that impact me and like share it to help others, but I don't have to sit here for an hour every single week. So with that, I'm excited to kind of like change things up a little bit. Watch this end up being a freaking hour. I just got ready. Noli is napping, so that's another thing about this podcast. I'm gonna see if I can kind of get in the groove of doing these things here and there throughout the week, and that'll just make my life a little bit easier. I have a couple topics I want to cover this week, and they are striving for excellence no matter what season of life you're in, and an idea kind of around surrendering to the entire first year of becoming a parent. I want to touch upon the podcast I was listening to that was the Bible in a Year. I actually stopped listening to it, so I'll dive into that, and I'm just still reading the Bible. And my church is doing a social media fast in October, and it could not be coming at a better time. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm like literally going to delete Instagram off my phone and have the best month of my life. And I have a whole plan for like how I want to get back into social media afterwards. And it's going to include not having Instagram on my phone or TikTok or anything. I never use TikTok. I am truly one of those 30-something-year-olds where like Instagram is my graveyard. It's just terrible. I don't use Snapchat. I don't use X. I like don't even know how to go on those. And then I just want to cover what I'd like to be covering in future podcasts. So to begin, I want to say that summer is officially over. Yesterday was the first day of autumn, and now I have to swap out my entire closet. I've been holding on to this sweatshirt that said American Summer, and Noli had a matching one. And now it's really time to put it away until next year. So I'm excited to get out all my fall clothes. We are in that time of the year, though, especially in New England, where it's like nice and cool in the evenings. It's in the mid 50s, but it's kind of like still wet. There's a lot of like, not humidity, what is it, moisture? I don't know why, because it's not like summer humidity. It's like a different type of moisture. And even today, it's supposed to be in the mid 70s, and you'd think that that's like great to keep the windows open. It felt very damp in the house. So it's the transitionary period. I'm so excited for autumn. I'm already thinking about family Christmas photo pictures. I am going to be baking up a storm with Magnolia this winter. We are going to do cookie boxes for friends and family. And I remember last year while being pregnant thinking about, wow, like next year I'm going to be baking in the kitchen with my baby. And I didn't know if it was a girl or a boy. And now I have like a little baker helper. So I'm very excited about that, even though she's really not the best help in the kitchen and it makes a huge mess and it makes my life way harder and I'm really OCD. I'm working on it. Regarding what kind of podcast style I'd like to be doing in the future, I really want to highlight love stories. I want to interview some of my friends and kind of ask them to share their stories of how they met their husbands, what like the nature of their relationship was and how it unfolded, and just really sharing their perspective on what keeps their marriage strong, how they stay connected and make it work, if kids are in the mix, how they approach certain topics, etc. I want this to be something that encourages people because I know that there's a lot of people out there, especially still our age, like in their early 30s, who are maybe still having that diminished outlook on love and finding your soulmate and spending the rest of your life with them. And I want this to be a place of encouragement. Something else I really want to cover is interviewing entrepreneurs. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I want to highlight people sharing their stories of what drew them to certain things, how they went for it, how people like made things work despite the messy, sharing the hard, sharing the growth. And I want to say, no matter what entrepreneurial venture you've ever pursued, even if it ended in what could be socially viewed as failure, it is never failure if you give yourself the chance to go after it. Because so many, usually the loudest critics are the ones who won't even dare try. So I just want that also to be a place of encouragement where we can dive in, get that like fire relit up in us about like nothing lights me up more than seeing other entrepreneurs. And it's hard for me too, because in this season of life, like I feel like I'm in a sit your ass down kind of season where I want to be out doing all the things, doing Coast to Cabin, doing like XYZ. And this is my season of motherhood. This is the most profound first year of my daughter's life where I am called to be more plugged into that. And that doesn't mean I don't have time or space for Coast to Cabin or any of my dreams. It just means I have to remind myself what is meant for you does not pass by you. For the plans he has for me is for plans for me to prosper, flourish, etc. But no one can replace the importance of a mom for your little ones, especially in their most critical developing years. So I am always in that quagmire, but I do believe as time goes on, it's kind of revealed to you why things unfolded the way they did and why you had to sacrifice even more. And I know that what's meant for me will not pass by me. So I think I'll use it as inspiration for myself as well to just stay motivated and excited and keep that like luster and excitement alive about chasing your dreams and pursuing your God-given giftings. Something that I've been thinking about that ties into the whole surrender is there have been so many times over the past 9 months that I've been like, this is my time to surrender. This is my time to surrender. And I'm like, you know what? What if I just could have gone back in time and told myself, like, it is not, oh, surrender this month. Okay, now she's 3 months, surrender this month. What if I just was able to tell myself to Anastasia, just surrender for her whole first year? I understand there's going to be surrender actually throughout the rest of my life because that is in part what becoming a parent is. You have created a life, you are in charge of this little soul while they're under your care to like lead them up in the way they should go. But I think especially as a first-time parent, we have to remember to give ourselves grace that this being our first time figuring out parenthood, figuring out new marital dynamics while both stepping into new roles as being parents, I really should have put no expectation on myself at all for the entire first year. And if I could go back in time and like give myself that peace, I wish I could. But now, like I have 3 months left until Magnolia's first birthday. I know her first birthday is gonna be such a celebration, and it is gonna be so much bigger than celebrating my baby being 1 year old. It is gonna be a true celebration of God being so good and patient and filled with grace for me and Matt during this transitionary year. It is gonna be a year of gratitude for grandparents, for family members who stepped in and just helped us while we were truly transitioning through the biggest life experience of our entire time together. Matt and I have been together for 13 years, and we always say nothing prepared us for the past 9 months. Like, this was the biggest ride ever. And again, I don't think it's as intense for everyone. I think everybody is different. And this just so happened to be something that was a huge growth experience for me and Matt. So I'm just really excited to make it to that 1 year mark. Something else that I wanted to talk about that I thought about a lot this week while talking with some of my friends is striving for excellence no matter what season of life that you're in. I think striving for excellence is easy to do when we're focused on all external validating things, like doing really good at our job, going above and beyond at our job. And I think that's kind of how I was thinking about it. I started going back to work, and I'm noticing, I think there's like influx of seasons, but I will tend to pour more of my time into going and being useful at my job because it's truly easier for me than slowing down and surrendering to the season of motherhood that I am called to be in right now. And then in doing that, I end up being very overwhelmed, kind of reactive when I'm forced to slow down and be present in the ever still Groundhog Day effect of motherhood. And it really kind of just made me sit there and think about, what am I pursuing and what am I chasing? Because I'm trying to do everything, but I'm actually trying to focus on the things that come easier to me than this new thing that is surrendering to motherhood. So, striving for excellence no matter what season of life that you're in, you can be in a place that is not exactly where you wanna be, but still be showing up in your best capacities. I wanna, like, translate that to when I was in the restaurant industry for 10 years. The last probably 3 years, I grew really weary of being in the same place and doing the same things, and I was not really a good steward of delivering excellence. I was still good at what I was doing, but my mindset and my attitude were very poor. And I noticed, like, as I was growing up, I noticed that would be a habit whenever I would reach, like, kind of like a, I'm done with whatever job I was in. I was not able to pursue gratitude, I guess, in my mind of, like, being grateful for how far I've come, looking around at maybe the place that I'm in isn't where I wanna be, but look at all the things that it's blessing me with, my home, my car, my lifestyle, etcetera. And not even that, even, like, slowing it down, like, I do this right now in my season of motherhood. When Noli and I pray every night, I try to really capture all the little details to remind myself, even though this season of life feels numbing and boring, is even a word that I used to describe it to Matt when we were talking this week. And I'm like, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but it's like living Groundhog Day. I know when I have the wrong mindset around the season that I'm called to be in right now, it's because there's a lack of gratitude and I'm not showing up and doing my work with a sense of pride and striving for excellence. When I slow down and plug myself in to a place where I am grateful for our running water. Like even this morning, I was like unloading the dishwasher and it's kind of that like, okay, I'm loading the dishwasher again. I'm like, Anastasia, you have a dishwasher. Like, you could be living in a house that doesn't have a dishwasher and you'd be washing every single bottle. That would make me crazy. The first few months Noli was born, we didn't put the bottles in the dishwasher because we weren't running it on a hot enough cycle. So all of the bottle tips were like coming out cloudy. Now we run it on, an almost 3-hour cycle. But like I dreaded washing her bottles. And I'm like, just look at even that. You have something that washes all your dishes. We have food that can dirty plates. We have grocery stores. I can just drive up to stores. They put things in my trunk and then I come home and I put it in a fridge. Sometimes I like on Instagram finding threads of like people who live in Nigeria or other parts of the world. And it's like a very humbling reminder that it's not like, oh, some distant long time ago. No, this is present day. This is present day 2025, how some people live. And they don't have these perfectly aesthetic, curated spaces that are always like, I'm neurotic and I get like wicked hard on myself when my environment is not clean and tidy. Some people have dirt floors, Anastasia, and they are happier than you. And, hindsight is 2020, but I think it's just always helpful to focus on gratitude in even the smallest forms because that makes the biggest change in your heart. So, every little detail. Like, you can be in a job that's not necessarily, like, lights you up, but I always say, like, "God, thank you so much for" when Noli and I are praying, like, "Thank you so much for daddy's job. Thank you so much that, like, he's safe at work, his coworkers are safe at work." We always are grateful for grandparents' health, aunties and uncles' health, our health that we wake up every day. Every day that Noli wakes up, like, what a blessing because so many people are living so many different horrors, and I think when you fill your mind and your heart with those things, there is no room for the other stuff. And all of that stuff seems less important. And you're just able to come back down to earth and just realize how blessed you really are in exactly this moment in time and how God was so good to you through the entire journey. And that is like the heart posture shift that I need over and over and over and over again. And I'm finding that it's like every single month, okay, ladies, our PMS cycle, I like hit my same breaking point like every 3 weeks. And then Matt has to say it for me. He's like, hey, you're at whatever point in your cycle, but it's here again. And like, we need to talk about this. And then he will let me kind of get it all out and he will help me like problem solve a little bit. He hears me, he validates me, and then we work on solutions. And then most of the time, it really is like, I'm just freaking hormonal. And I'm like, I just hope this changes. Like, I hope the estrogen and whatever else is going on around our cycle just subsides a little bit because I don't like this roller coaster. I also think it's the sleep deprivation. Next, I want to talk about the podcast I was listening to by Father Michael Schmitz that was talking about like reading the Bible in a year. It is by a Catholic priest. I grew up Christian Pentecostal. When I read the Bible from the Bible app and the Bible that I have, it is like maybe it's King James Version or like New Living Translation or maybe New King. I don't remember which one, but I basically try to pick not a super new age one, but one with vocabulary that I can understand because if it gets too confusing with old world English, I'm not gonna follow along and I'll just be lost in the sauce. So I part of me wanting to read the entire Bible cover to cover is I want to like feel conviction and know the true word of God because I think we water things down a lot socially. And something that I really love about our church is they say the unpopular things and they're not fearful of it because all they're doing is reflecting what's in the Bible. And we live in a society that you can't speak about anything that's not like, that doesn't call people out on their sin, and that's what it comes down to in black and white. It's like, we're all sinners. The Bible is the roadmap to have freedom from sin and live more like Christ and follow our giftings and share our giftings, and then we just get lost in this dark, murky space. So, when I found the podcast that was covering it in a year, like, they read parts of the Bible and then the priest kind of summarizes it. I was really looking forward to, you know what, even though Catholicism isn't my thing, I'm really open to hearing someone who has dedicated their life to God talk about some of the hard subjects in the Bible. I was cleaning the kitchen one night and they were talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, how God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And then the summary of it was just so weird. Like, it got to the point where after that podcast ended, I was like, "Wait, that was it?" Like, I would like to know how they talk about some hard topics. Like, how do we dissect these things? Because I, as a believer, would like to understand scripture more. And then I was like, was that even the place in the Bible that says anything about this? And then I went to my Bible app and I pressed play and it read me a couple chapters and I was like, whoa, the Catholic Bible didn't even like they like omit things. It was crazy to me. I was like, this is how people can read an entire Bible and not even see the true word. And it was a conviction on my heart right away of like, that is not something that I'm going to invest my time in. I still seek to speak with people who have studied the word. They understand like biblical era and because there's Old Testament and there's New Testament, but I don't think the way we talk about hard things is to pretend that they don't exist in the Bible. And I was just like really disappointed in that. So I'm not listening to that anymore. And I'm just going to continue to read the Bible and maybe I will find like someone else who can lean into the hard things. When I say like convicting things, there was a sermon one time at our church that talked about not living in sin before you're married. And, like Matt lived with me before we got married, but I always would justify it as like, well, God knew I needed my person early. And our pastor literally said, so many of you sitting out there think you're in the clear because now you're married. So it doesn't matter what you were doing before you were married. That's the type of conviction I want to hear and feel. And like we're called to own up to and repent from because the Bible gives us a simple roadmap for how to guard our hearts in the easiest fashions. And lucky for me that it turned out this way. like that Matt and I are married and we're happily together and we've been together for 13 years and now we have a baby. But how many times does it not go right? And how many times before Matt did I like live in a way of the world and it didn't go according to God's plan? So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I think especially as we get older and we really think about the weight of God's word and how we're instructed to live, I think being entrusted with a baby, a new life and soul, I am taking faith way more seriously because it's not just this free floating thing that has no consequence anymore. Like I really believe when you and your husband come together and make a baby, you are co-creating with God, and God is sending you a soul. I think of it as like an angel coming down and getting to have an earth experience, an earthside experience, but it's your job to steward that baby. And I've heard it before that like that is the one time humans get to co-create with God, the creator of everything, and I've never been able to think about it like in a different way because it truly is pure majesty and wonder. And then lastly, I want to talk about social media fasts. So I've really been feeling like I am always in, out with social media. I'm posting on my stories. I'm not really posting on my feeds. Instagram is an algorithm and you don't do it for the algorithm, but it's very defeating when your goal is to even just share with your friends, the people who you follow. And because you're not a posting machine, it doesn't even show what you're sharing with the people who you follow and follow you. So it like puts you in this place of like, this is a waste of time. Never mind like the scrolling. When Matt is working double after double after double after double, and I'm not sleeping for days in a row, and Noli is on one, okay, I'm always finding that after I finally get her down at like 9 or 9:30, it's like way past her bedtime, I think to myself, like, I'm gonna go to bed early. What do? I end up like sitting on my bed and I open Instagram because my mind can just numb. And then it'll be like 30 minutes later, 45 minutes later, and I truly feel sick to my stomach because in that 45 minutes, I could have done something more fulfilling for myself. I remember hearing recently that like people don't have hobbies anymore because everybody just scrolls on their phone. And it's like, I'm not saying I want to sit here and color a coloring book, but it really is true. When do we make time for hobbies? Unless I'm doing a Costa cabin renovation or a rehab project, like I'm not doing anything else other than social media, which is sick. So I want to get back to that stuff. Our church is doing October 1st through October 31st. They did this last year. No social media. No, I'm going to delete Instagram off my phone. I don't use Twitter. I don't use, see, Pinterest is murky for me because whenever I do social media hiatuses, I still let myself keep Pinterest because Pinterest I always use for design. And for me, that is pursuing a hobby. Like whenever I have a client project in the back of my mind, I'm like, instead of scrolling for 30 or 45 minutes, I could have been diving into design and getting inspired and like making a mood board and pulling ideas from different projects. So, and I found that during social media hiatuses, I do not abuse Pinterest. It is not like a filler for me to sit on there for 45 minutes. It's honestly like a good 15 minutes. It revs me up. Then I'm so excited and then I can be on my way. So, Matt and I are both due to get new phones. I have an iPhone 12 Max, Pro Max, and Matt has a 13 Pro Max. Like a year into having Matt's phone, his speakers blew, and my phone right now will just glitch and like I can't touch on my screen. So I either have to restart my phone or one time my screen just honestly froze and I had to from my home screen turn on my camera and just leave my phone recording a video in like 60 frames per second, 4K, until it drained my battery and my phone died. So then I could replug my phone in and reset it. And I was like trying to turn it off and I called 911 a couple times and I was like, they're literally going to send someone out because they're going to think I'm messing around and I actually need help. So the point of this is we were like putting off getting new phones because we're people who you get a phone, you pay it, like you own it, and then we don't trade it in until trade it in. We don't get new ones until it's time to get new ones. We've actually never traded in phones. So here is my thought process behind social media. October 1st, I'm deleting all social media off my phone. I don't know when we're going to get new phones, but when we get new phones, I will not be downloading Instagram onto my phone. I'm going to spend the month of October trying to create reels of my past podcast and get them ready. And then when I get a new iPhone, my old iPhone will be how I schedule out posts. And I would like to have week chunks at a time where reels can just drop and it can be pushed to our similar audience of first time moms, women thinking about motherhood, entrepreneurs, girls who believe that their soulmate is out there and they don't want to be discouraged. And we will find our community. The community will continue to grow, but I don't want to be contributing to the problem. I think also I feel convicted when I spend too much time on social media because I'm really aware that I'm no different because I'm contributing to this problem. I don't want to put stuff out there that's just putting things out there to keep all of you on your phones either. I want it to be encouraging. I want it to be helpful. I want it to be useful. And I think if I do end up posting reels in the future, I really do want to highlight some good things that I do on a day-to-day basis. Like when I meal prep a ton of food for our family, I always focus on high protein, low carb meals. I really want to, oh my gosh, I just got mad scared and I was like, yo, did I never press record? No, I'm recording, thank God. That would be so funny. But I want to share those life things. Whenever I am figuring out a new project and I'm using tools for the first time that are so intimidating to me. I built 2 bookshelves for Magnolia's room myself, start to finish. Matt obviously showed me what drill bits to be using and what tools, but I was using wood glue and staples and it's not a power saw. What's that called? I guess it's a power saw. It's not. Is it a circular saw? I want to share that kind of stuff because these are projects that I know someone else might be encouraged to just step out of their comfort zone and do it too. And just so many beautiful things are on the other side of us utilizing tools that we have for good. So, thank you guys for joining me on another solo podcast. This came out to 30 minutes. I think by the time I edit it, it'll be maybe 25 minutes, but I love you guys. I'm so thankful that you guys always tune in. Please feel free to send in any comments, suggestions, topics that you want me to cover. I think I also am going to cover in a future podcast in the book club that I'm in. One of the girls kind of got to this point in her relationship where they live in Connecticut, they bought land, they're building a house. The guy's an entrepreneur, he works super hard, but she's sitting in this place of well, can you make time for me? Because I don't know if I can stick around if I'm always going to be last. And she shared some of the background of their relationship, and I gave her my take on it and how I truly feel like not a lot of men are wired to be workhorses and providers. And I think there are little details that can be shifted through communication. And if that is your person, it is worth reinvesting that time over and over and over and figuring out how to make it work. Because I did say to her, girlfriend, when you guys have kids, because she's a workhorse too. But I'm like, when you guys have kids, you might feel called to be home. You might feel called to stay home for that first year. And the nature of the man that you are with will provide you a life where you can do that when so many people can't. So many women, and okay, it's different perspectives, right? And I'm not going to dive in too deep, but so many women are like, no, I want to go back to work. I enjoy my job, etc. I'm not saying never go back to work. A lot of women wish they could just pause for a year. I think the same women that advocate that they truly enjoy their jobs are the same women that advocate for maternity leave should be a year. That's what I mean when I say wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. I think some women feel called to it indefinitely. I definitely don't. But positioning yourself in a place and working with your spouse or your significant other to give yourself just that opportunity, if when the time comes, that is something that you choose, that is a beautiful thing. That is something worth working towards, fighting for, etc. So anyways, maybe I'll dive in a little bit more to that because she did give me permission to cover it in this podcast, but I wasn't really sure how I would frame the whole thing because I want to be like, will you email me your story? But anyways, thank you guys all so much. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.